this topic. What does preparation look like? This is a question, is based on a sales training, actually. The answer that I'm going to give to this question, and the question itself, is based on a sales training that I did for a sales organization that I still actively work with. I don't work for them, but I do some training for their sales staff a couple times per year. And actually, I've done this for more than one sales staff talking about similar topics. And they had me talk to their team, and they were asking specifically, the people in charge of the sales team were asking, Dre, can you talk more about like some of the tactical day-to-day things people can do to prepare for their jobs? So what I'm going to give you here today and tomorrow is framed around those of you who go out and you do sell for a living. It doesn't even matter what you sell, but the fact that you are in sales, or those of you who just see yourself as a salesperson, even if your job title may not say so, because all of us are in sales. You're selling something, even if you're working at, if you're a personal trainer, you're a salesperson. You sell training. If you sell cars, you're a salesperson. If you're trying to think of a job where you may not have to sell anything, you're working at the front desk at you're an administrator at an office building, you're someone's executive assistant, you are selling as well, because you have to sell maybe your boss on why you're doing a good job. You have to sell the people that you are gatekeeping from getting to your boss and interrupting his or her meeting. You are selling them on why they should leave a message with you instead of insisting to get through to the boss and talk to them. So we're all selling somehow, some way. We all do this, so we will all benefit. All of you will benefit from what I'm going to share here today and tomorrow. So let's get into it. Let me see how many points I have here today. It looks like I'm going to give you, I have 8 total points. So I'm going to give you 4 today. And if I have this right, 4 tomorrow. So let's get to it. Speak fast and you don't have to. So I'm going to speak fast and I need you to listen fast. So I don't have to slow down for you to catch up and we can get more done in less time. Point number 1. Topic, once again, is what does preparation look like? Number 1, what is the goal, or what are the goals? This is a question. First question you should ask yourself if you want to be prepared for anything you do in life is, what is the goal? Or what are the goals if there is more than one? This is the first question I ask anyone anytime somebody asks me to help them with anything. Anytime someone comes to me asking for help, once they explain the situation, which often can take more time than it needs to, I'll ask them, what's the goal? Or what are we trying to achieve? I understand what you're saying the problem is, but what are you trying to achieve? Because based on what you're trying to achieve, there are different ways that we could go about addressing the thing. So if I don't know your goal, then I'm not qualified to offer you advice, help, answers, or anything else. You remember the episode not too long ago where I was telling you about the Chat GPT podcast host, and that was the episode where I told you give advice only if, episode number 3102, you shouldn't give advice to anyone on anything unless you're very clear on what they are trying to achieve. Often, the person who's asking you for advice, they don't even know what they're trying to achieve. Therefore, they really shouldn't be asking anybody for advice until they're clear on what they're trying to achieve, unless they're asking for advice on how do I get clear on what I'm trying to achieve. I always make sure I get clear with people on what the goal is before I start offering them advice on anything. And the problem that many people have, especially those who are eager to give out advice, is that often you are giving out advice to people based on what you think their goal is rather than what you actually know their goal is, because they don't know. Therefore, you can't know. Therefore, you can't give them advice. All right, so the more clear you get on this, the easier it is to follow everything else I'm going to share here today and tomorrow. What is the goal? You always need to know what the goal is. You must remind yourself of it on a regular basis. And this is the reason why sales organizations have sales meetings every single day before everybody goes out into the world and starts working. Any of you who's ever worked in sales, you know this is how it works. It's usually some type of gathering before everyone goes out and hits the world running and tries to sell their stuff. There's some type of gathering where the person in charge, or the sales manager, whoever it is, fires everybody up, gets everyone excited, reminds everyone of the goals, looks at what are the projections for the day, or what do you need to do, what are you going to do, what happened yesterday, and makes sure that everyone's on the same page before we move forward into the next thing. And you will actually notice that any successful organization does this every single day, even if the people in the meeting, the gathering, are not actually salespeople. Any organization I've ever been a part of, whether I was a member, whether I was the person in charge, or I was just visiting, they do this. In sports, we do it. There's a meeting before the game. The coach gathers all the players together and makes sure everyone is clear on what we're looking to do in this game. Before a practice, the coach does the exact same thing. In the sales world, of course, this happens. In the business world, this happens. There are many organizations I know of where even the people who are not the salespeople are still part of this gathering that happens at the beginning of the day. And the whole point of the gathering is to make sure everyone's on the same page And we all know what we're looking to achieve today. So now we can go out into the world and do our jobs. Even the person who, again, who's working the front desk, the administrators, they're still part of that meeting because they still need to know that we're all on the same page. And we all need to see each other and know who's here, who's not here, who's doing what, and what we're going to know is done at the end of the day, or at least what we hope to be done at the end of the day. The more clear the goals, the easier it is to move yourself to action in any aspect of life. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is what does preparation look like? And it's going to be a 2-part series. Number 2, knowing your offerings or your products or your services, whatever they happen to be, inside and out. All right, if you are going to be prepared, you have to know what you're working with. You need to know your tools. What are your tools? When you're a salesperson, your products and services are your tools. Or in sales, sometimes we just call them offerings because it could be a combination of products and services, maybe part of your offer. But you need to know them inside and out. You need to know everything about them. I mean, staying up to date regarding what's happening in your industry, in your space, up to date with the people who you're looking to serve, any changes in the rules and regulations around the things that you serve. For example, if you're in the insurance industry, there are changes that happen in insurance that you should know about. If you sell cars, there are changes that happen in the automotive industry. You should know about them. If you're in finance, there are always changes and regulations happening in the industry, depending on what type of client you're serving. And you should know more about that than they do, so that when they call you or they come meet with you, you have news for them to let them know, hey, because of this change that you may not have known about, Mr. or Mrs. Client, this is what I suggest that we do. And the more you can do that, the more prepared you are, the more they'll probably trust you to help them, period, and then to help them make decisions in the future moving forward. It is your responsibility to know these things. Anything that will affect your achievement of the goal, which usually involves helping your prospects and clients and customers achieve their goal, you know all about it. You need to always be up to date on it and never come up short, never miss this information. The world that we live in today, where we are inundated with information, ignorance is unacceptable. All right, this is what I'm telling to all of you professionals. You call yourself a professional and you have the business card to prove it, and the corner office to prove it, and the business suit, and whatever else you got that makes you believe you're a professional, or that you believe are the trappings of a professional that you need to have. Definition of a professional is someone who does something as their main paid occupation. If you're going to get paid for doing something on a consistent basis, you better be up to date on the thing that you do, the products and services that you use in order to do it, the people who you serve when doing it, and you must be able to communicate continuously to those people what's happening, what's changing, and how it affects them. That is all your job. This is called doing your homework. We did a whole episode on doing your homework. In episode number, we did a 3-part series in episode number 29, 56, 57, and 58. And also did an episode called Do Your Homework in episode 1925. So if you haven't listened to those, make sure you go check those. You can find those at workonyourgamepodcast.com. So ignorance is unacceptable, folks. Since you know your goal, you don't need to consume all the information that's out there, but you should have the information that is relevant to your desired outcomes. So if your goal is helping people grow their money, then you should be consuming a lot of information about how to grow your money and how to protect the money that you have and how to make sure you're not losing money. You should know about these things, and then information that is specific to the people who you serve, your best clients or the people you most want to serve at the highest possible level. You should know everything that they need to know up front. For example, I was listening to one of the shows I like to listen to, at least as of this recording, when it comes to news and current events, is the Megyn Kelly podcast. I guess it's just called the Megyn Kelly Show. Megyn Kelly used to work in traditional media. Now she has her own platforms. And at the end of one of her episodes, her producer came on, and it's like once a week they do this. The producer will come on and he'll read some questions that come via email from her audience members. And one of her audience members asked her, well, Megyn, what do you listen to or watch for fun? And one of the things, and Megyn kind of laughed at the question and said, I don't really listen to or watch a whole lot of things for fun because of the line of work that I'm in, because she's always up to date on what's happening in the news and talking about it. And she has guests on and all that stuff. She said, all day I'm reading articles and I'm listening to other people's podcasts, and I'm watching YouTube videos, and I'm finding out what's happening in the news. Because when you're in the news industry, you always have to stay up to date on what's happening like right now today. And she said, I'm always consuming that stuff, so I always know what's going on. So by the time she gets on the air to record her show, she can talk about the things that are happening right now, because that's what her audience expects of her. So if you want to be in that line of work, that's the kind of life you need to live. And I took note of that, and I said, this is a really good point that she said that. I'm glad that she brought that up. Anyone who wants to be in any industry, this is what you have to do. If you want to be in the basketball industry, you got to be looking at and watching and consuming everything basketball and all other people, what other people are saying about basketball, what's happening in basketball. Is the same thing in finance, is the same thing in the fitness industry, is the same thing in the auto industry, is the same thing in the futures industry, the foreign exchange industry, whatever industry you're in. You need to be up to date on everything that's happening in that space so that you are a step ahead of not only your competition, but also your customers and your clients. Because when you know what they don't know, they can come to trust you to fill in the gaps that they don't want to fill in. It's one of the reasons why they may be hiring you in the first place, not because they can't go get the information or find these things out, but simply because they want to put their time towards other things, and they want someone like you to be able to fill in that gap. I just had a friend of mine who we've done business together in the past. She reached out to me. She helps a lot of people with their building their brands and writing books and stuff like that. She reached out to me and said, I have a client who wants to be hands off with the fulfillment of their book orders. And she was asking me, do I know companies or people who can do all book fulfillment orders? That simply means that somebody orders your book, all you do is pass all the information to them, and they handle everything. You never have to touch a book or an envelope or a mailing label. The point being, there are companies out there who will do that for you, but they have to know what's going on so that you don't need to know what's going on. You're willing to pay for someone to step in that spot. You are that person that's being paid for knowing what other people don't want to know, don't need to know, or just don't know, period, for whatever reason. All right, this is your responsibility. Okay. You need to know you need to know all the things that are relevant for your particular audience or the people who you serve. Point number 3, today's topic, once again, is what does preparation look like? This is a 2-part series. This is part 1 of a 2-part series. Number 3, know your clients and know your opposition better than either knows themselves. It means you need to study, especially when it comes to your clients and customers. People you serve, need to study them. You need to know everything that they have challenges with, everything that they need, everything that they know they need, everything that they know they want, and the things that they don't even know that they need, but they do, and the things they don't even know that they will want, but they will. You should know about all these things. This means knowing what is valuable to the people who you are working with. Those are your customers. Knowing what's valuable to the people you're working against. Those may be your competition. So you know what to ask, how to best direct conversations, how to uncover key information that will help you achieve the goal, which again is helping them achieve their goals. In sales, your goals are aligned with the goals of your customers and clients. If they're not, then you probably shouldn't be selling that product, or you need to change your goals, or you need to find some better customers, or different customers, that is. When it comes to your competition, you need to know what they're doing, how they're doing it, and why they're doing it, so that when you are meeting with your customers and clients who may be weighing their options, you can explain to them, you can articulate to them why they should choose you instead of choosing any other option that's out there, including the option of doing nothing. Remember that all your customers and clients often have the option of doing nothing. Even though it may hurt them to do nothing, even though it may be against the rules or against the law to do nothing, they still have the option of doing nothing. And many human beings take the option of doing nothing much more than you might think. So in sales, that means, again, helping your prospects achieve their goals, which means you need to know what they are. And you need to be very clear, information wise, as to what are the different ways they could achieve that goal, what are the pros and cons of each, what are the trade offs of each. And they expect you to know this stuff. Your highly experienced customers and clients will expect you to know this stuff. Now, someone who may not have as much experience working with someone like you may not know that you should know this. I'm telling you that you should know it, and you should be a step ahead, even if they are not a step ahead. Even if they're a step behind, you should be a step ahead. In the famous book called The Art of War, Sun Tzu explains that if you know yourself, you know your opponent, and you know the terrain, all 3, know yourself, the opponent, and you know the terrain. It means you know the ground on which you are in combat. In 100 battles, you will never be in peril, which means never in trouble. You know everything that's happening around you, yourself, your opponent, and the space in which you are working, there's no way that you can lose. Point number 4, today's topic, once again, is what does preparation look like? Number 4, anticipate challenges. In the sales world, for example, that means you need to know the possible objections, delays, complaints, frustrations, and criticisms that your prospects will throw at you, not necessarily about you, but at you. So a prospect, any of you who's in sales, know you have had the objection of, well, I will do it later. The delay of, I just gave you a delay. So that's a form of an objection. The complaints. Well, this price is a little bit higher than I expected. That's a complaint. The frustrations. Man, I'm frustrated that I even had to pay for this. I wish the government didn't force us to have to buy this stuff. I don't even want to buy it in the first place, but now I got to pay this much. Criticisms. Well, your product is going to force us to have to change the way we do this process, that process, and the third process. Your prospects and customers are going to throw these things at you all the time. You should anticipate these challenges and be ready to deal with them. Also, your prospects and customers are going to throw challenges at you that are their challenges, meaning things that they have to deal with. And one of the reasons why they're coming to you is so that you can help them solve that problem. Maybe go over the top of the problem to where it is rendered irrelevant, maybe dealing with the problem directly, maybe figuring out an alternative way of handling the problem that they had not considered that might make it easier on them than all the other options that they were thinking of before they came across a genius like you who was so prepared that you were able to solve their problem in a much easier way than they were thinking of solving it. So if you work in sales, the foundational piece of your work is preparing yourself to handle every objection that could possibly come your way. So this one should come as no surprise to you. Any of you who's in sales should be well versed and well trained and be able to be woken up out of your sleep and hit with an objection and have an answer to it. Any of you who's in sales, you better have this. If you don't have this, you're not going to make a lot of money in sales, and you probably won't be in sales for long. So this is just handling objections, handling anything that the prospect can throw at you. The price is too high. I got to talk to my wife. I got to talk to my CFO. I don't want to get corporate involved in this. If it's over this price, then we got to call corporate, and that's going to take a whole lot longer. And it's going to be all this paperwork process. Maybe I'll do it next month. Maybe I'm not ready to move on this right now. The price is a little bit higher than I expected. You all don't have all the features that I thought I was going to get in this product or service. I don't like having to work with your team. I'd rather work with just one individual person. I don't want to reach your assistant. I want to be able to reach you directly. I want to work with the team. I don't want to work with one person. You get all kinds of objections. And as you can see, I'm rattling these off because I'm just thinking of things that I've heard in my years being in sales, selling different things, the kind of objections you get with people. I don't have the money right now. Do you all have any kind of financing options? The financing options don't really work that well for me. My credit's not good. I want to do this without affecting my credit score. There are so many different things that get thrown at you. And these are all challenges. They can be challenges for you personally to deal with in order to be able to work with the client. And there are challenges that you are going to have even once you have a prospect, or not a prospect, but a customer or a client. They're going to come to you like, hey, I have these challenges. Can you do anything to help me out with these? And if someone's working with you, they bought from you, they're expecting you to have answers. They're expecting you to have answers, and hopefully your answers are, you already know the answer because you've already, what's the word that I'm looking for here? You have already predicted that the challenge is going to come. Even better than that is that you can let them know that the challenge is coming before they even come to you with the challenge. You can tell them, look, this is going to happen in 3 weeks. This is going to happen next week. This is going to happen in 6 months. So then when it happens, they're like, damn, this genius salesperson, that's you, who told me 6 months ago that this is going to happen, here it is happening. And now when they talk to you, they're actually happy that the challenge happened because at least they knew about it ahead of time. And the challenge that we anticipate is much better dealt with than the challenge that we don't anticipate. Would you agree? So that preparation work, remember folks, preparation is the hallmark of the professional. Professionals are always ready up front. Nothing comes to them as a surprise. So handling objections before they get brought up, maybe as part of your presentation in the first place, or being ready for all common objections and having material to handle them multiple times if necessary. In other words, they throw you the price is too high. You got to have more than one answer to that because they may throw it at you more than one time. So these anticipated roadblocks should not stop you from achieving your goal. If you know the roadblocks are coming, then you should not be slowed down by the roadblock because you know it was coming. It's like if you're driving and there's a Google Maps gives you directions, but they know that there's a blocked road somewhere in that direction, they will route you through the detour so that you don't just run up to the blocked road and Google Maps is saying, well, go straight. But you can't go straight. Google Maps figures that out ahead of time. You need to be the exact same way. In other words, you need to be the Google Maps of sales. All right, let's recap this first part, which is like a first 2-part series. What does preparation look like? Number one, what is the goal or what are the goals? It's the first question you should ask anyone anytime they're asking you for help. If you don't know the goal, you cannot give advice. Number two, know your products, offerings, and services inside and out. It means you need to know everything about what your things can do and what they can't do and how specifically it will help your customers and clients. Number three, know your clients and opposition better than they know themselves. The better you know them, the better you can help them and you can tailor your conversation and or possibly your products and services and offers to help them the way they need to be helped, because not everybody needs the same help. And number four, anticipate challenges. Challenges meaning the challenges that your customers and prospects have themselves, and also the challenges that your customers and prospects will throw at you either in the selling process or in the serving process. You need to be ready for those so that you can best help them. And the better you show that you know the challenge before they even throw it at you, the better you look and the better chance and the more that they will trust you as a trusted advisor, which is what you want to be to anybody that you're serving, because then they will give you more leeway to help them in more ways than they even thought they needed to be helped. All that said, tomorrow we're going to get into part 2 of this series. Make sure you go to workonyourgameuniversity.com so we can take your business from where it is to the next level with my direct help. That link down below in the description. Work on your game. Dre,